Hello and welcome to the first episode of my Building in Public series for the project Fluency Education. If you've been a subscriber to this channel, this is going to be a little bit different of a video than what you might be used to. This video is going to be focusing a lot, and all the other videos that I record are going to be focusing on building out this project Fluency Education and kind of going behind the scenes into the work necessary to build this project out. That includes covering topics like engineering, sales, marketing, and once there are customers, supporting those customers. And so this series is kind of built around some other videos I've seen where people are building their projects in public. It gives them the opportunity to kind of plan out their weeks, get some feedback from the public, and then also make adjustments. And so this content is going to be kind of focused on what you people might be interested in, but it's also just going to be for me in documenting the process and giving me an opportunity to kind of plan things out and share my thought process as I build out this project. And so that may all sound a bit random at the moment. So let's dive into what fluency education is by first discussing the problem. So back in October last year, I was introduced to this concept of precision teaching, and we'll dive more into what precision teaching is in a moment. But I'd like to first address the problem with the American education system. Now, this project isn't seeking to fix the American education system. It's just what I think is a cool opportunity to provide some actual tangible results to students and teachers so that we can create a better piece of the American education system. Looking at headlines and some of the data regarding the current state of the American education system, it's pretty clear that students and teachers are falling behind. USA Facts shows that 8th grade math and reading proficiency has been falling as low as it has been, and that's pretty concerning considering that, all things considering, things should be improving, not worsening. So this is just one example of many I found online about how the current education system is on a slide down. And anecdotally, I've kind of noticed this as well. I spent a year as a math interventionist. I was also a math tutor for a while, and I noticed that more and more students were having trouble learning math, and that subjects weren't exactly clicking for them. This has also been the same conversation, same observations from speaking directly with teachers. My mother's a teacher. Back when I was working as a math interventionist, I was supporting teachers, and teachers are all saying the same thing, which is that their students aren't learning the same as they used to, and so trying to figure out why this may be. And after reading a bit up on the subject of precision teaching, which we'll take a look at, there's this book I've been reading called Response to Intervention and Precision Teaching, which is just like a textbook on how to implement this stuff in the real world. This book has me thinking about two concepts that I think the current system is focused on. The first is an external source of motivation. When you think about the motivation for students when they go to school, a lot of students don't want to be there, and I've read a few sources that attribute this to an external source of motivation. It's parents telling the students that they need to go, their kids that they need to go to school, they need to get good grades, but never really understanding why it's important. I know for myself that the expectation as a student when I was young and in high school was to get good grades, and that was just the expectation. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that expectation, but I do think that it creates a separation between, if you react positively to it, then that's great as a student, but if you don't, then I think it isolates you and kind of furthers you from pursuing education. And so That's one reason why I think we might be experiencing this decrease in um, in student performance. Another is that the education system is reactionary and not proactive. I'll compare and contrast this a little bit later on, but if we think about it, students are given new material, they are given homework, they learn about it, and then, in a month's time or a couple months' time, when it's the end of the subject, they're given a test. And then, depending on how they do on that test, that's kind of their, it's accuracy based, meaning that there's 100 questions, you get 90 right, you get an A. And that's a thumbs up, you know the material. But if you say get 50 of them correct and you get that F, how are we helping those students? At that point, it's too late, right? Like teachers, the expectation is that they are moving on to new content, but that student clearly doesn't know the material, and so those students start to fall behind. There are methods that teachers are using to get them extra time to help learn that material, but at that point, it's this compounding effect where students fall behind, they need to catch up, but because they're learning more material on top of that new material, they're falling further and further behind. And you spread this out over a year, over many years, over their entire education time in the education system, and it's not crazy to think that they are going to be worse off than their peers who are staying on track. And so this creates a negative feedback loop, both for the teachers and for the students. And then as the system as a whole, students' numbers fall. The detection is too late. This puts pressure on the teachers to catch the students up. And then the current system is not designed to catch students up. So there aren't enough resources for the students. There's not enough resources for the teachers. And so the students' numbers fall again. And then it's just this loop of, not actually improving. And I don't want to pick on Tennessee, but I found, just because I was talking to an educator from Tennessee, I found this one headline where, by the numbers, specifically this line, the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in math increased from 26.4% last year to 29.5%. So we're looking at a state where, 70% of students are not exceeding expectations in math. And I mean, alarm bells should be sounding. Like, why is this the case? We should be all hands on deck trying to figure out why more than the majority of students are not meeting expectations when it comes to learning material. And it's just as bad, I would argue, when we're looking at the arts as well. So I mean, when we at the very least, I'd say we should have those numbers flipped. 70% of students, that seems at least like a sound goal to have meeting expectations. Yeah, so I mean that was a little bit alarming. At the same time, again, I'm picking on Nashville, I'm picking on Tennessee just because I was talking to a student or a teacher that is from there. They're celebrating a 3% increase from last year's growth. So comparing last year how the students did to this year, celebrating a 3% increase. This might not even account for. Couldn't really find the numbers, but couldn't really account. This could not account for, depending on what the chance of error is, plus minus 1%, you're looking at like 2%, 1% increase from last year. And is that really something to be celebrated? We should be doing better for our students. We should be doing better for our teachers, making sure that everyone has the resources they need to learn. And so, okay, that's great. We have this problem in the American education system. How can we what is one possible solution? And that is kind of where this venture is going, which is a new concept for me. Again, like I mentioned, I learned this last year when it was first introduced to me in October. And this is the concept of fluency-based education. And so I'd like to go through a brief introduction of what fluency-based education is. This idea isn't new. It's been around since the 60s. It was developed by Ogden Lindsley, and he was actually a student of B.F. Skinner, who was pretty big in the psychology world. So I thought that was a pretty cool learning. But all this to say is that this isn't a new concept. I think it's slowly gaining steam. When I talk to educators in the space, they're not too optimistic that we will ever see precision teaching make it to the mainstream teaching market. But we'll get into why that might be a little bit later. But this has been around for a while. It's proven, and its focus is on data and continually measuring something. So this is where I'll kind of contrast this to the current system. So the focus is on frequency as opposed to accuracy. So if we go back to our previous example, I'm sure a lot of us can relate where you have a test and you get a score on that test. Let's say 90%, and that's given an A. And then you give the thumbs up, you know this material, and then you can move on. And so that's accuracy-based learning, where there is this cutoff that says what is acceptable for different standards. Contrast this with fluency-based education and precision teaching, where the main focus is instead on frequency. And so just think if you had a stopwatch and you recorded how many times you could do something. And the argument is that someone who is fluent in something, like just like I'm speaking English right now, I'm not even thinking about it. I can speak a certain number of words per minute. I can understand a certain number of words per minute. There is a agreed upon level that is considered fluent. And so if you are not a native English speaking person, listening to my speak would be a lot more challenging. I'm trying to think of other examples. Like let's talk about Steph Curry and playing basketball. Making these numbers up here, but if he can make 100 3-pointers in 10 minutes, then that is what it takes to be the best 3-point shooter in the NBA. If I can only make 20 3-pointers in 10 minutes, then that is what an amateur basketball player's rate of that skill is. And so the whole concept is you can break anything down into just a skill, and then you can measure the frequency of success on that skill. And this isn't to say that accuracy isn't important, but it's just another way of incorporating daily measuring and progress into a system that provides tangible results and practice. So that's the other thing, is that this is a daily measure. And so when students are learning a skill, let's say adding single digit numbers together, 1 + 1 = 2. This isn't something where you get one homework sheet, you work over it, and then you move on. We're practicing these facts until you hit the fluent level. And this is measured daily. And what this does, we'll go into a demo in just a quick second, but what this does is it allows, all the science behind it is it allows teachers to know where students should be exactly X days out. So in 1 week's time, if I started at only being able to do 10 correct math facts in a minute, in a week's time, I should be able to do 20. And if we know that the fluency rate where a student can feel comfortable moving on then is at 40, then we know that in 2 weeks' time they should be there. And so it's a very data focused and I want to say proactive way to measure student progress. It's proactive in the sense that since we're measuring daily, we have daily insights into how students are performing. We're not waiting a few months out until we give them a test and they get a 50 and we say they don't know this material. At that point, it's too late. We should have been doing this on a daily, day-by-day basis, because then we can catch early, make adjustments, and go from there. So those are kind of the two contrasting, kind of the reactionary side versus the proactive side. There are some extremely impressive benefits with people implementing this today. And one of those is Morningside Academy. So let me just pull up their website. They work with a lot of students who have disabilities and are coming in behind in material. And so that's who they serve. And they're talking about how they're guaranteeing if you enroll your student at their academy, they will gain at least 2 grade levels in their skill of greatest deficit in one school year, which I think is incredible. So if you come in 1 year behind, they will leave 1 year ahead at one skill. And they're so confident in that they will give you your money back if they don't do that. And I think that is a true testament to how successful this new style of, I want to say, teaching and monitoring can be for students. And I want to lead with these kind of benefits because we're not talking about a 3% improvement from year to year. We're talking about 2 grade levels. I don't know what the percentage is. I don't know how you do this. I'm a little bit new to all this, and I'm figuring all this out too. But I think those results are impressive, and that's what we need to see if we want to fix this problem. So it's not just Morningside. I've heard teachers anecdotally, implement this themselves and say how they are growing their students are growing grade levels at 1.7. But anything above 1 means that students that were behind are now catching up. Anything above 1 for students that are at grade level means they're getting ahead. And so if 1 is the standard, which is, at the very least, you've completed 1 grade level of work, anything above 1 is phenomenal. And it's also worth noting that this is not just used directly in the education space. This can be used anywhere. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. Intuitively, it makes sense. The more you practice something, the better you get at it. And that's kind of really all this is we're going to practice this until you're good enough. And once you're good enough and once you're fluent, then it's time to move on to the next skill. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. There are programs that implement this in sales. There are programs that implement this in the sports world. This doesn't just have to be in education. Anything. I'd argue anything could be education, but this isn't just 5th grade implementation. This can be anything. Okay, cool. How does this work? This is demo time. This is kind of where my business venture kind of starts into this. And so there's this concept. Don't get overwhelmed by this. This may look confusing. Pretty simple. This is what precision teachers use to measure their students. And so this is called a standard acceleration chart. Along the bottom, you have calendar days. And so, day 1 is here. These thicker lines represent a week. So this is 1 week out. This is 2 weeks out. This is 3 weeks out. And then on the left, we have the count per minute. And so this is rate. And so a teacher can come here. My name's Clayton Schneider. This is student name, student skills. So let's say I'm in 3rd grade and I'm practicing math facts. I don't know what that would look like, but this is the start date. There are 2 pieces of information that the teacher can set. The first is the growth rate. And so the growth rate changes how steep this line is going to be. It's also worth noting that this is a logarithmic scale. And so all that means is, from 1 to 10, it increments by 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once we hit 10, we're going to increment by 10. So now it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Once we get to 100, we're going to increment again by 100. So now it's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. And what that means is instead of seeing an exponential growth quadratic, we will instead see something that looks linear. And so it just kind of flattens everything out so that we can fit more onto here. That's besides the point. Just wanted to explain why the graph looks the way it does. So I can set the growth rate. And what the growth rate is determining is how quickly we want our students to improve. And so how it works at a fundamental level is day 1, I sit down and we record a baseline. And so let's say I'm given a minute and I get 10 math facts correctly. A teacher can come in here, put that 10 in, and we have our baseline measure right here. And now the growth rate is set to 2, and that's this green line. And all this is saying is that we want our student to grow at a rate of 2. And that means every week we should be twice as good. And so on day 7 here, remember, this is 1 week out. On day 7 here, we should be at 20 or above. So that is the green line. We can also think of it, anything to above and to the left is good, anything down and to the right is bad. The fluency rate is what is considered fluent. So if I should be able to do 100 math facts in a minute, which is unrealistic, but let's just say that's what it is, then that would be considered fluent. And so once you hit this goal, then we know that the student can move on. Basically, they've become fluent. They know the skill. We can be confident in that fact. And so the fluency rate is determined based off of, well, both of these are, but they're based off of research, which is how quickly should we push our students, like how ambitious are we, and then the fluency rate is like what is the agreed upon level for a skill. Okay, let's go through this example. And so we can add a measure, and we can put in, let's say day 2 I do it, I got a 12. We see the next dot show up. Day 3, let's say I get a 13. We're improving. Day 4, let's say 15, 5, 16, 18, and then on 1 week out, I'm sorry, this is 1 week out, 7 days, 20. So we are at or above the line, and this is what we would say is positive improvement. You can see that we're just like right along the line. And now for the next week, we would need to be twice as good as this week. So next week, we can think of 2 times 20 is now 40. So now we need to be at 40 by the end of the week. And what's really cool about this is, let's say there are a couple days where I don't improve and I fall below this line. We can see that there are 2 days where, technically 3 days, where it didn't improve at all and I'm falling below the line. That is an indication to an educator, to a teacher, that there is some fundamental block in the student's learning. So we can see that a student is making progress. We can see that they've stopped making progress. Why is that? That is a sign that it's time for intervention. And so this is a really good, at least I think, it's a really good method to determine when a student is falling behind. Proactively, I should add. Like, at this point, we haven't given any tests. We're only 10 days into learning this, and we can tell that a student has stopped progressing, stopped learning, and that is a sign that there is a symptom that needs to be addressed. Okay. That is the demo. Hopefully that made sense. Again, I'm still relatively new to this. I just am extremely impressed with the results. I think it makes a lot of sense to be measuring proactively in addition to reactively with like fluency based and accuracy based. And this is kind of the crux of what this business venture is going to be focusing on. Is we'll dive into that, but how can we make this all accessible and digestible to teachers? Okay, the benefits. The students learn more. As we've seen from evidence from Morningside and anecdotally from other teachers I've talked to, students learn more. That is a positive thing. If we can get it so that 70% of students are meeting expectations on math, I'd say that's a win compared to 30%. Additionally, this creates what I think is more important, an internal source of motivation. Speaking to teachers that have implemented this, they're talking about how students are excited to come to school and are asking to take another, they call it a measure. So they're asking for more. They want to beat their score. It creates, when I first started going to the gym, what I fell in love with it was that each week you could see your numbers go up. Eventually, it starts to decline. School gets busy. But when I was in college and I had the free time to go to the gym, that's what I fell in love with. Was each week you go to the gym, you push yourself, and the numbers directly go up. I see the same thing happening with students who implement this. So you're creating this internal source of motivation where you directly see improvement for your effort. As you put more effort in, you can see that you're getting better at these skills. And this creates an internal source of motivation, which I think is an important lifelong skill that we should be teaching everyone in the American education system, which is that if you persevere with something, you can learn it. But also that it takes practice and it takes hard work, and it's not like it's an overnight thing, like one piece of homework and then suddenly you know everything. It takes work, and then also like when you're falling behind, that it's okay to ask for help and to get the resources you need to improve. And so this is, I really think, the more important piece, which is that we're setting up our students for better lifelong success in the real world because they have the skills to learn. They have the skills to learn. It's like the meta skill of how do you learn anything new. For teachers, this creates a simple process for teachers to follow. This book talks about how teachers can implement something simple like this in 10 minutes of time. We can, like, Morningside has their whole program, which is probably too difficult for any school to get buy-in for, but teachers can implement this within 10 days, 10 minutes each day of just setting aside a time for skills that they want to measure and setting up a process for that. And so it's pretty simple for teachers to follow. It doesn't impose anything in terms of teaching methods. This isn't a new, teaching method where we're doing math this way. Teachers can, it's agnostic. Teachers can teach however they want, and you just measure daily. And it's simple to implement. And the additional benefit is that it's quick to detect when students need help. There's a direct response. So we can say like 2 days under that line means that a student is not improving. We need to take action. And so there's a direct method and measure for when we need to take action as educators to help our students. Beyond teachers, this creates, for administrators, this creates an easy way to collect data and measure the progress of a school, rather than just grade based 3 times a year, however frequent that is. Each day, teachers are collecting data. Each day, we can get a look into how our students are doing. And so at the administrative level, we can see day to day how our school is performing. And so all of this provides the opportunity to quickly adapt to students' needs. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's the two things right here. It's helping students learn more and also building those lifelong skills of what it means to be a lifelong learner and how they can do that from a point of self-motivation rather than an external source of us, because it's important to just get good grades. Okay, so that's kind of like a high-level overview of the problem, a potential solution. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the business side of things. Currently, I have launched Fluency Education, which is the URL for this project. It's just a simple page at the moment. Got a homepage, got a wait list, and then we have the demo, which teachers can mess around with and record data. And so this is the marketing side of thing. The goal for Fluency Education is there's two. The first is to spread awareness. I have never heard about this. I have talked to quite a few teachers who also have never heard of this. I think it's pretty niche, and I think it's pretty niche because it's pretty data focused. It's pretty academic. I don't think it makes its way. This is all me speculating, but I don't think it makes its way outside of its little niche, and so I just don't think people are aware of it. And so first and foremost, it's clear that there is tremendous benefit to implementing a system like this. Just spreading awareness alone will make an impact on the education system. But where the business will actually make an impact directly, and where the core product offering is going to be, is surrounding reducing the barriers in the space. Currently, teachers are like those charts that this chart that I showed you. Teachers are printing those out on paper. There's not like a great online tool for this. There are a few, but they have their downsides. But a lot of teachers are printing out pen and paper, and then they have to measure each day and plot those points. You have to create the line yourself. That's not necessarily easy to do. I mean, it's not hard, but it's time consuming. And if you think that you have 10 students, then you have to do this every day for 10 students. Like, it quickly adds up to being a lot of work. So that's one thing. The second thing is that it's, like I mentioned, all very technical, all very scientific. And so if you are outside of this space, like just getting, even if you wanted to bring it to your school, getting the buy-in for teachers is difficult. And so like most people probably don't want this chart with all its, they just want to know, is my student above goal or are they below goal? And those are really the two important metrics. Are they improving at the rate we want, and are they hitting the goal? That's really all that matters. And so removing those barriers so that teachers don't have to do any graphing, just plug in your data, and that's everything. So reducing the barrier, that's going to be how Fluency Education builds its platform and really makes its money. At least that's what I'm hypothesizing at the moment. So the product itself is going to store student data. It's going to make the data accessible to the correct folks. If you want to share student A data across teachers, across classrooms, like that's important. Multiple people need to be able to see that data. Administration needs to see that data. And if it's all living within a printed out sheet, that means either photocopying it and handing it off to someone, or actually handing off the physical piece, which means that you don't have that to record if you need it. So making the data accessible to the correct folks is going to be another key feature for the product. And then also automatic detection of when intervention is needed. I'm just thinking if every night it looks at the data for that day and then identifies students who are in need of intervention. All of this hinges around reducing the amount of work that teachers need to implement this system. I know for a fact, I worked in the edtech space for some time at SLU. Like teachers, there are teachers that are really into finding the new best way to teach and are extremely motivated in that aspect. And then there are the teachers who are just too overwhelmed and are just trying to do their best and get by. And so this is never going to face mainstream adoption if, we're talking about precision teaching and growth rates and all this, like it sounds technical, it sounds complicated. And when you have so much work on your plate as a teacher, you're not going to adopt something like this if it requires a lot of time to learn. And so reducing the amount of time it takes to implement something like this and learn a system like this is really going to be how something like this spreads. Getting onto the marketing side of things, I'm thinking like an SEO perspective, create free resources that teachers are looking for. I currently have the public-facing standard acceleration chart that's just up. Getting that to rank for teachers is a great way to get people in the door. I'm also thinking, building free resources for like skills that need to be measured, like math facts, like building a worksheet generator, basically. Those kind of resources I think would be good for getting people in the door. I also need to educate myself a lot in the space. I'm reading through this book, I'm taking notes. I think this is a great introduction. The space is very academic, and I foresee it to be my role, if I want to make this a success, to distill down all the information that I consume into a manner where it is easy to digest. So that's, I have a lot to learn, as you can probably tell if you're well versed in the subject. Listening to me talk is probably, like nails on a chalkboard. I don't really know the terminology or the lingo, but figuring out a way to learn this, but also make it, I don't want to say dumb it down, but make it more digestible for others is going to be key for the marketing. one benefit that I have going for me is that this is all very data driven, which means that any results that users get with this system is going to be great for testimonials, is going to be great for marketing back towards new people. And so that's really going to be the name of the game, I think, is just proving how effective this is. If I can prove that teachers that use this system can expect their students to learn 2 grade levels, and the competition is only learning. I don't want to say competition because education is not about competition. But if System A, we're celebrating 3% growth, but students in System B are 200%, then that is a sign that we need to be doing more of System B, and that's what I want to prove with the data. Again, that's to be determined. I don't have any proof currently with my system, but that is kind of the point of the marketing is how can we get that proof. With any of this, I've been listening to business podcasts, and something that's really jumped out to me is that if you have a fantastic product, then that means even if you stopped marketing all other forms of marketing, you would still have people that would talk about your product. And so I think it's going to be not I think it is it's going to be extremely important that this is a really great product, because teachers are only going to share it if it's great. And so it needs to be easy to use, and it needs to save teachers time. That is how I'm going to get teachers to share this. And then I'm going to start in the niche of precision teaching and slowly expand as I become better at communicating this to a more general audience. Precision teachers are already aware of all of this, and so they will gladly accept everything I'm saying because they know the benefits. But as I can prove the benefits more, I can expand to a more general audience. Okay, so here's kind of the marketing agenda. So I need teachers that are interested in trying my platform for free. Right now, this is the public-facing side. I also have an internal app that I've been developing. We'll get into the technical details later in the video, but yeah. So I need teachers that are interested in trying my platform. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're watching this and you know any teachers that would be interested in using the platform for free, just tell them to sign up on my website. You can join by just going to fluency.education, clicking join the waitlist, and then entering your email there. I'll be in contact with you. I'll be in contact with you and setting up. What I want to do is I want to run through a kind of like a demo, and then also collect feedback. That's really the focus of this is, for the teachers, can they implement this into, even if it's just a classroom, measure the results of that classroom, and then share those results. And then for me, it's going to be important to gain feedback on how I can improve the system, how I can make it easier to use, and then any glitches that those teachers ran into. So if you know a teacher that would be willing to participate in that, it would mean the world to me if you could send them to fluency.education/waitlist and have them sign up. Again, that would be completely free in exchange for feedback on how I can make the system better, if they had a positive experience, a testimonial or a review, and then again, if they had a positive experience, any connections to anyone else that would be interested. Looking ahead, in September, I'm currently, as of now, I'm enrolled to take a course called Education Technology. The course is supposed to be research and project focused, pretty open-ended, but it aligns directly, as of now, with my understanding of the course, it aligns directly with Fluency Education. And so I'm going to be finding a way once that course actually starts and I learn a little bit more about that course to tie these two together, whether that is performing more in-depth research with the platform or just continuing to work on the project. But that would be great because it can associate with Georgia Tech and allow me to work, kind of double dip in my efforts. And then in September, there is a tools competition. So they are in the edtech space, investing in new tools to help learning and research. And so I've competed in one of these before back in my time at UConn in my undergrad. So I know that this can be a good opportunity for publicity, but also to get some funding for this project. And so that's kind of my marketing plan looking ahead. The real big thing is getting teachers that want to implement this in the classroom and give me feedback on their experience. If you've been listening along because you're interested in the engineering and tech, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how I've built everything. I know that there are probably faster methods to do what I'm doing. I don't really care. I am doing this also as an opportunity for me to get better at my craft, which is software engineering. So on the marketing side, everything on Fluency Education, the stack is built with Astro in hybrid mode. Hybrid mode because the server side is handling that waitlist form, and it's pushing all the data, just the email to AstroDB. So using a SQLite hosted database with AstroDB. The entirety of the chart is built with just vanilla JavaScript. Again, I know I could probably build this faster in React or Next because I'm more familiar with that, but I really wanted to push myself to see what I could do with just vanilla, and honestly it was a pretty enjoyable experience. Nothing too bad at the moment. I'm also using Tailwind, specifically Tailwind UI, just to build those components faster. And then I'm using plausible analytics to track metrics in a secure private way, not using Google Analytics, plausible analytics for the win. And then I'm using Cloudflare pages to deploy to. So that's everything the marketing side. Everything the app side, I don't have anything public facing at the moment, so there's nothing really to show there. I'm using Go, I'm using Temple, I'm using HTMX, I'm using vanilla JavaScript, again, Tailwind UI, and then for authentication and for the database hosting, I'm using Supabase, and that is my tech stack on the app side. If you're interested in more details about that, just leave a comment, and I'm more than happy to go into the, part of this series I'm envisioning is kind of listening to what people that are listening are interested in, and kind of diving more in detail into that space. Okay, what I need from you, if you're still watching this, if you are an educator or you know anyone in the education space, if you could send them this video or introduce them to me, that would mean the world. That's the only way that this can grow, is if it gets shared. I think the results are, I think the potential for something like this is tremendous in making an impact on the education system. And if you see the same potential, sharing it with someone that is directly involved in the space is one way that you can make a difference, so that we can make this happen. Sign up on my wait list, give this video a watch, give it a like. That's what I need from you. If you don't really care about the education side of things and you're more here because you like the business side of things or the engineering side of things, let me know any other topics that you want me to cover, can go into. TBD on this. I'm planning on coming out with a video once a week, covering a topic, reviewing my goals from the previous week, and then stating my goals for the next week. That's kind of how I see this working. And so for next week, I want one more person on the wait list. That is my goal. Get one more person on the wait list for the free MVP improvement study. This means reaching out to all the teachers I know, asking who would, if they know anyone that would be interested. I was also planning on having this challenge start in August, of actually starting working with those teachers, but I know a lot of teachers probably don't start until September, and so that might need to be pushed off. On the product/engineering side, I've been focused a lot on the marketing side of things for a minute, so I have to go back to the app side, review the code, review the notes and the feedback that I've gotten and received from educators. At the moment, I want to kind of redesign, replan the system, knowing what I know now, and start that planning so that I'm ready for August. And with that, we have episode 1 of the Fluency Education saga. Can't wait to see where this goes. Thank you for watching.